Hitler and the Nazis sought to replace traditional Christianity with positive Christianity, what they called a positive Christianity. They attacked the church in Germany by attempting to bring it under state control, persecuting Christian leaders who opposed their regime. Priests were often influential leaders in their community, and so they were sought out by the Nazis. Thousands of priests were forced into concentration camps. Most were made to die slowly of starvation or disease. A special barracks was set up at Dachau, the camp near Munich, Germany, for clergymen. The Nazi idea of positive Christianity basically was designed as propaganda to allay fears of Germany's Christian majority by implying that the Nazi movement was not anti-Christian. Hans Kell, Nazi Minister for Church Affairs in 1937, confirmed Nazi hostility to the Catholic and Protestant creeds in an address during an intense phase of the Nazi Kirchenkampf. Kirchenkampf would be the fight against the church. And this is him here. The party stands on the basis of positive Christianity, and positive Christianity is National Socialism. National Socialism is doing God's will. Short version, these people literally saw themselves as Christians. Christianity was not National Socialism. National Socialism was Christianity. What do Muslims tell us? We are the real Christians. Well, the Nazis were saying, we are the real Christians. God's will reveals itself in German blood. Dr. Zollner and Catholic Bishop of Münster, Count Galen, have tried to make clear to me that Christianity consists in faith in Christ as the Son of God. That makes me laugh. No, Christianity is not dependent on the Apostles' Creed. True Christianity is represented by the Nazi Party, and the German people are now called by the party, and especially the Führer, to a real Christianity. The Führer is the herald of a new revelation. Don't forget, Hitler says, but Christianity is an invention of sick brains. One could imagine nothing more senseless, nor any more indecent way of turning the idea of the Godhead into a mockery. Now, this is from Ibn Qayyim, and I've discussed his book on my channel before. Just look up Ibn Qayyim, right? Qayyim. The prayer of the Nazarenes ridicules the worshipped deity, so the prayer of the Christians ridicules God. The Christians chose a way of prayer during which the most devoted and ascetic among them would consider it no great matter if he happens to have past urine dripping on his thighs and legs. Understand, this was a common trope that Christianity ridiculed God. And of course here, you've got the Nazis telling us that Christians ridicule God. Again, a Nazi parallel. Hitler was made victorious through terror. Now, this is from Mein Kampf, the official 1939 edition. It's in the folder that I directed you to earlier. A philosophy of life which is inspired by an infernal spirit of intolerance can only be set aside by a doctrine that is advanced in an equally ardent spirit and fought for with as determined a will, and which is itself a new idea, pure and absolutely true. This philosophy of life, which is inspired by a spirit of intolerance, is Christianity that he's referring to here. This is literally from the Islamic series. Didn't they say the exact same thing? They're very close. Yes, Kush, XD. You were about to say that Adolf sounded like a Muslim in that quote. Correct. That's Ibn Qayyim. And in fact, it also sounds like Ibn Taymiyyah, who says the very same, basically the same thing. Muslims have also sourced this as, that was a Muslim source to say that Christians urinate in church. Yeah, I've read that on air before. So, he says here, each one of us today may regret the fact that the advent of Christianity was the first occasion on which spiritual terror was introduced into the much freer ancient world. But the fact cannot be denied that ever since then the world is pervaded and dominated by this kind of coercion. That violence is broken only by violence, and terror by terror. So he's saying that Christianity brought violence, coercion, and terror into the world. And the only way to fight violence is with violence. The only way to fight terror is with terror. He is going to use violence and terror against the Christian church because the Christian church is violent. These are the words of Mr. Adolf Hitler. Now, Hitler's public presentations of positive Christianity differed. Despite proclaiming a unified peace with Christian churches, positive Christianity advocates sought to distance themselves from the Jewish origins of Christ and the Bible, to align them with Nazi anti-Semitism. So Jesus and the Bible both had to be made to align with Nazi party ideology, which was anti-Semitic. Positive Christianity separated from Nicene Christianity and is thus considered apostate by Trinitarian Christian churches, regardless of whether they are Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, or Protestant. Hitler consistently self-identified as a Christian. He made the claim he was Christian over and over, even Catholic, and even on occasion as a Catholic, specifically throughout his entire political career, despite criticizing biblical figures. He identified as a Christian, for instance, in one example, in a 12 April 1922 speech. Hitler identified as a Christian in Mein Kampf. Just as a brief aside, if you go to the folder that I mentioned earlier, all of Hitler's speeches are here. You're going to find... Okay, can't find them, but all of Hitler's speeches you will find here. Okay, you're going to find all of Hitler's speeches in this folder, so you're going to find several different versions of these speeches. I may not have updated it, but by tonight, once the update happens, you will find that all of Hitler's speeches are there for your ability to peruse. Hello everyone, hello Marlene, welcome Marion Grand-Bruheim. So, now he self-identifies as a Christian, and in this speech in 1922, Hitler identifies as a Christian in Mein Kampf. However, historians, including Ian Kershaw and Lawrence Rees, amongst others, characterize his acceptance of the term positive Christianity and his political involvement in religious policy as being driven by opportunism and a pragmatic recognition of the political importance of the Christian churches in Germany. Germany was a majority Christian country. He had to appeal, and he explains it in Mein Kampf. He actually explains in Mein Kampf, it is important not to offend and fight against the church. And he mentions an example of a politician who did this, and he lost everything. He had to leave politics. So he says it's important that we don't do this. We need to be smart when dealing with the church. Right, if you guys like what I'm doing, please share it. Right, please hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. Let me see how many people are here today. Oh, great. Okay, right. Now, positive Christianity. Also, the guy that we're looking at here, this is Nazi ideologist. Right, this is a book called The Political and Social Thought of Alfred Rosenberg. A very important man within Nazi circles. We're going to be learning a lot about him as well. Don K. Welcome, Don K. And Gabe Salazar. Distancing the Christians from the Jews. Nothing to do with Luther. Actually, a lot to do with Luther, Gabe. A lot to do with Luther. Unfortunately, yeah, Martin Luther features heavily here. Sadly. But I'm not going to be discussing Luther at any length today.